So right here we're on the edge of an open area versus this more sheltered brush area right here. And this is a perfect habitat right on the edge to look for tiny little rodent tracks. And in this case, there is just a whole bunch of mouse tracks in here, a whole collection of them, going back and forth, probably at night looking for food, and then scurrying back up there into the brush for shelter. So let's look closely at a mouse track. First thing to note is the size. Of course, they're very small, less than a centimeter in size there. This one, you can see the 3 toes that are grouped on there on the hind track, as is typical of most rodents, but it's kind of hard to make out a lot of detail in these guys because they're so small. So on the left there is a hind track right there, and right here is a front track, which I will spin the camera around so you can see it right side up. 4 toes and very tiny little pads indicate that's a mouse track. That's typical of all your rodents to have 4 toes on the front and 5 toes on the hind. Okay, there's a size comparison for you. Very small. Some rodents show a very vestigial front toe 1, and so you can say 5 toes on the front on some rodents. So notice the grouping of the hind toes, three hind toes being right next to each other in a line there. The outer toes are facing out towards the sides, and you have 4 little pads that you can see there. Tiny little track. So there's the outer toes, and those 3 in the center are the middle toes. So on the right there you have a hind foot. You can only see 4 of the 5 toes on that one. Let's come up here and look at a beautiful example of a front track. Right there with the ant for scale. You have 4 toes on it, and little tiny pads, 3 of them, and then 2 proximal pads on that track indicate that is a front track. Looks like toe 1 is on the left there, so this is a left front track. Here is a beautiful example of a hind track right here. This one shows the inner toe being dropped backwards, making this a right hind track. 5 toes, 3 in the center, 2 facing out to the side. So I hope you enjoyed that and learned a little bit about mouse tracks. You have to have very fine substrate to find their tracks usually. Silt and sand are usually the best substrates to look for them, and very fine mud on the edges of rivers and edges of ponds and streams is the best place to look for the tiny little rodent tracks, because they require a very fine substrate in order to leave any details of their tracks. So this is the kind of place to look for them. Hope you enjoyed.